world of virtual instruments, it's time to bring our traditions into the modern-day workflow. Tejano Keyboard presents the Music Creator Library, a sample library of all the classic and hard-to-find keyboard sounds, patches, and layers from your favorite Tejano recordings of the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and today. The Tejano Keyboard Music Creator Library is an all-in-one music creation tool, including long-sampled German and Italian accordions, live brass and woodwind instruments, basses, guitars, bajo sextos, and drum loops in the styles of the most prolific drummers and styles in Tejano music history. The Music Creator Library is compatible with virtually any digital audio workstation. Whether you're a keyboardist looking to expand your sound collection, an inspiring producer, or an arranger trying to get your ideas down, the Tejano Keyboard Music Creator Library has you covered and is exclusively available at www.tejanokeyboard.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition Tejano Keyboard live feed. Thank you so very much for joining me. I am that dude right there, Rolando Revilla Jr. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Unfortunately, we're still running into the same upstream issues that we were having yesterday. So I will record this and post it after the fact. So for those of you who are watching live, you'll probably get most of the audio, but some of the video might be a little choppy. But for all intents and purposes, as far as hearing and demoing and seeing what this is all about, it should be fine, I suppose. It's not ideal, but hey, that's what us professionals do, right? The show must go on even when things aren't, as you wished. Also, my co-host was not able to make it today, so I do want to send a shout out to him, my co-host and co-developer, Jesse Herrera, Chewy. You guys know him, Chewy or Jesus, but I call him Jesse. He wasn't able to make it today either, so it's just me. And if you guys have any questions as we go along, be sure to message me. I have the chat open up over here so I can kind of try to answer the questions in real time, or even if you guys just want to send a shout out, that would be nice as well. Let's see here. All right. I'm just trying to get things all situated before we actually dive right into the demo. I just want to make sure that everything is good here on my end. Let's see here. We're going to do that. All right. And then we get this and put it there. All right. There we are. Let's see here. All right. So, without further ado, let's do this. All right, give me 1 second here, guys. That's gonna look a little funky, but this right here is what we've been kind of waiting for. I know I have. This is the Tejano Keyboard Music Creator Library, a library of roughly about 3.5 gigs of samples of different instruments, different loops, and a bunch of different stuff that you could use to create Tejano music, and even some of the fringe styles of music, including but not limited to norteño and cumbia and all sorts of really cool stuff. So I started off like this because I want you guys to see that actually the library is based on the Forzando platform, which is Forzando is actually a free program. So when you download the library, the installer will force install Forzando. But if you wanted to install Forzando on your own, you could do that as well. Forzando is a free plugin. So you're more than welcome to download that for free. However, What you're actually paying for is the library. So when you look it up, once it's installed, you won't actually be looking for the Music Creator Library. You'll be looking for Forzando. And Forzando is on VST, VST3, AU, and AAX formats. So it's compatible with virtually any DAW that takes plugins. Somebody earlier asked me if GarageBand accepts it. Yes, GarageBand does accept it because it does do the AU, the Apple format. Also the AAX format that Pro Tools uses, so it's compatible with Pro Tools and basically anything else. Sonar, Cakewalk. I'm using Studio One, as you guys can see. That's just what I happen to be using. But let's get started, okay? So when you click here in the snapshot area, you're going to see TKMCL, okay, and that's going to be the Tejano Keyboard Music Creator Library. It's broken up into 9 sections, okay? You have pianos, strings, pads, voices is number 2, organs, synth, bells, brass, woodwind, let's see here, accordions, and rhythm section, and then rhythm section actually has subfolders where they break off into drums, bass, guitar, and bajo, and so then you can have your whole series of different sounds. So let's listen to some of these sounds. And again, for those of you who are listening live, we'll see how this translates over because of the bad upload, but the bad upload stream. But again, I will re-upload this after we're done, so you guys will be able to see this forever and ever and ever on YouTube. Let's send a couple quick shout-outs before we dive in. Cynthia Herrera, who's my co-developer's wife, thank you for tuning in. It says, y'all are doing amazing work. Thank you. I think she's a little biased. I'm just kidding. My boy Matt Ponce, going out to Ponce in the house. Great accordionist, a good friend. Great friend, man. I love him. Yeah. Also, Mike Quesada says, saludos, brother. Thank you guys for joining us. So, let's see here. Right off the bat, you'll see there's not much to the GUI, but it's still very powerful. So, 1M, let's see, it's called 2M1C, and that's based off of a novella, but it's not Tejano, but that's just what the sound's from. But you could use it for a bunch of different stuff, you know. So a lot of these sounds are going to have references to things that you're just like, okay, well, I don't understand it. But in the owner's manual, everything's explained, what all these sounds could be used for, and, you know, stuff like that. So let's see. Let's go down some pianos. This is a real famous sort of sound that, you know, you can use for a lot of, like, cumbias or, you know, that early 90s sort of house piano sort of sound. This is a good one right here. A very bright EP that's good for like early 90s Tejano. You know, so I like that one a lot. Let's see here. There's this one that's called Canada A EP. And the reason it's called Canada A, it's because this sound was made popular by a Canadian producer, not for Tejano music, of course, but it showed up on a lot of recordings by, you know, like the band Chicago and stuff like that. But essentially, it's an acoustic piano with EP on top of it. So, you know. So different stuff like that. That's good for that. Let's see here. This one's the MKS, which for those of you who are bilingual, it's kind of a very expressive. And there's two different flavors of the MKS sounds. Those are good for comping. Let's see here. This one's called FM7 EP. Also, most of these sounds were minimally processed on the way in, recorded basically without any effects. But Forzando itself has a very powerful effects engine. So if we go to the effects tab here, you can have your choice of ambience, which is like a reverb, and detune, which is like a chorus. So if I were to get this classic FM piano from... You guys know which keyboard I'm talking about. If I turn it all the way down, that's just a raw sound. Right? All right, and if we turn up the chorus on that, make it all sorts of lush. So it's really nice and bright there. Let's see here. I could spend all day just with the pianos. The grand piano is very nice and expressive. The last keys have no damper on them. Right? Or even just... So... That grand piano sounds nice, I think. Let's see here. This one's called Rolando's EP. And... Forgot what key I was in. But... So that's a EP that I use from my personal keyboard. And let's see here. I'm getting a message, kind of scared me off of the side. It says, okay, so the co-host will be home in about 6 minutes. If I could add him to the interview, I'm gonna try to get him on there. So, yeah, we'll see. Okay, so if you're watching, just call me on my phone, and then I'll put this on pause so I can get you up and running. But call me once you're ready. So, okay. Let's move along here. We're not going to be able to go through every single sound, but I do want to highlight some. The pianos are really important, in Tejano music. So this one's called Suitcase Tines. Yeah, it's a really nice, also very expressive. Bites a little bit. Go ahead. I'm not gonna. Yeah, whatever. It's good for soloing. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm just tinkering around here. So let's see here. I think you'll be able to check out all these piano sounds on the Dino Piano. Okay, somebody asked for Dino Piano. There's one that's called a Digi Dino EP, which is kind of my interpretation of that sort of sound. Something similar to that, right? Very Luis Miguel-esque. But yeah, also very good for camping rancheras and cumbias, romantic cumbias. Yes. So there goes to answer Mike Casada's question. Let's see here. Let's move along to some sounds. Choir voices is it's something that. How does it go? I'm sorry. So of course, and just comping for cumbias, layering with other sounds. Of course, very very iconic sound there. Let's see here, and while we're on that sort of vibe, there's different. Well, I'll come back and do some of the pads, but these are the strings that I tend to use in the studio. So. Very big, very lush, just a touch of reverb, but most engineers will tell you that they don't want any effects on the sounds. So you just go right here to where it says send and turn that down, and yeah, that's how you do it. So let's see here. The other one that I've been kind of using a little bit more besides Revia strings is this one called Silky Strings, and I called it Silky Strings because they sound silky, but it is based off of a very popular keyboard. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that, but it's a very nice string sound. So, yeah, I really like that. It's nice and silky. So we've got some different like enveloping pads for like comping that. And like I said, a lot of these sounds, well, actually not a lot. If you look in the owner's manual, there's an explanation on how to use each one of these sounds and what they were inspired by, a little bit more in depth than I care to talk about here for various reasons. Let's see here. Warm pad is also kind of along the same lines as that. So you have stuff that's very modern, stuff that's very old school, that can go either way. As you guys know, we're kind of like in this whole like rebirth of the 80s and stuff. Even in pop music, I'm not talking about just Tejano music, but like in pop music, Bruno Mars and groups like that kind of are bringing back some of those older sort of synth sounds. So they're very much relevant today, even though they're kind of old school, So, well, let's see. Let's move to some organs. Some of these organs are kind of referencing certain bands, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. There's one that's called Houston, that sort of thing. Let's see here. We go to organs. There's a jazz organ that's good for comping. Let's see. Okay, so there's that. Let's see here. This one's kind of like a choir organ sort of deal. This one's called Rockin Organ. I like this one. So that one's kind of cool, very iconic sounding. It's not the original one from the song I was playing, but rather maybe a layer of that with something else. Again, these are just supposed to be close representations, but as you guys heard in some of the demos, and we'll go over some of the demos here in a little bit, to hear, what they can do in their full potential. Uvalde organ, there's a band from Uvalde. you know, that sort of thing, or not from Uvalde, but that sound from a very popular keyboard released in 1989, something like that. There's plenty, well, not plenty, there's a few bell sounds, but they're plenty good. You know. That one has kind of like a little pad at the end. That one's good. They're all good. Let's see here. Oh, this one's called Flower Bells. Okay, so there's that. This one's called Voice. It's another kind of like a bell sounding with voice sort of thing. So we're getting into the brass sections here. So we've got stuff like that. This one's kind of a brighter, kind of like a sort of if you're trying to do cumbias and stuff, that's good for that. French horn, it seems like it might not be something that's completely useful in Tejano music until you listen to some of those cumbias that have like that sort of stuff happening in the background. So that's good. Let's see. I also want to send a shout out to John Ontiveros for recording some wonderful brass samples for us. We have a patch coming up next, and we'll talk about that one because that one's really cool. But this is actually John Ontiveros playing trumpet. But this sound is actually broken up. The range, that's the lowest range of the trumpet right there. And then below that, there's some other alternate articulations or little tricks that make the trumpet sound more realistic. So on this side, the actual playing range of the trumpet. Okay, so to like right here, that's the range. They're touch sensitive, so if you're playing just regular. It's pressure sensitive that when you hit it a little harder, it does a trill. Does a little trill. Which gives it a little bit more of a realistic feel and sound to it. Brian, you guys gotta wait, man. So let's see here, and at full velocity, you get a brass fall, and then in the extended range, they all fall. And then at the bottom half below the concert E, we have shakes. And then at hard velocities, we have doits. So you have that. Okay. So you can do all sorts of stuff to really make the trumpet sound realistic. Okay, we'll move on. This one's called La 45 or LA 45, depending on, you know, how you care to refer to them as. La 45 horns. So you have the John Ontiveros trumpet. All that stuff. And you have the low brass trombone and tenor sax and a few other cool things. I'm gonna take a quick pause for a second. If you guys can just hang for like 2 minutes, I'm gonna get Jesse going here in a second. So give me just 1 second, and I will be right back. All right, and we're back, kind of, here. There we are. All right, so this is Jesse Herrera, a good friend of mine. We've known each other for more, almost like 2 decades or something like that.
Since what time is it?
Since And so I'm going to take a real quick pause. I know you guys are excited to hear more sounds, but I want to give you guys a little bit of background. So Jesse and I, we used to jam in a couple different bands together back in the day. The first band we started off with was, well, it wasn't his first band. It was my first band that I jammed with him. It was the Tejano Sound Band. And he was playing keyboards and all this stuff at that time too. And I was into keyboards. And so we kind of started trading ideas, and that's kind of like, you know, our mutual love for keyboards kind of, you know, brought us together, and music and all that stuff. Yeah, we even had a band together, right, Jess?
For a minute.
Yeah, for like literally 60 seconds. So yeah,
that was it.
That was our song. A shave and a haircut, 5 cents. No, so we were called Virtual Dos, and we basically, because we both lived in Michigan at that time, try to do like and key emphasis on try. Tried to do kind of like Los Dudes, like Reveles and Anthony Hernandez, where we just set up a bunch of keyboards, man, and we just, and you know what? We got a couple gigs, man, and they were paid gigs too.
Not very much.
Not very much, but we made some noise and people danced. That's all that mattered, yeah. Right? I mean, that's yeah. Okay. Anyways, so Jesse and I go back a long ways. He's honestly, and I can say this with all my heart, he's one of my best friends, man, and so I'm glad to have him on this project. And I'm glad that all the help that he did to make this come together, you know, helping me with some of the sampling and the programming and all that stuff. So, yeah. Do you want to add anything to that? I'm kind of long-winded there, and I kind of, you know, stole the whole script. I don't know if there's any...
I don't know. It's just, I'm just really excited that we've got this far. You know, it's been a long ride and a little stressful, but we got here.
Yeah. And in reality, like, you know, we see other people in other genres doing this same thing, you know, but I think that this is something that our industry kind of needs to kind of like, you know, get some fresh, a breath of fresh air or something like that, you know, because like, we were talking about like how it's good to come up with fresh ideas, but you still got to have some of the sounds, you know what I mean? Like in order for it to be accepted as whatever, right? And Jesse and I both kind of listen to other genres of music outside of Tejano too. And we're also, I'm sorry to put him on blast, but we're both natives of Michigan. You know, we weren't born in Texas. Oh, yeah. You know, and exactly. And
happy to be wearing my Michigan hat.
And so I think our perspective, our outside perspective on the industry really does help us to try to get as detailed and as accurate as possible. You know, Jesse is currently playing bass with Ruben Ramos in Mexican Revolution. So shout out to any of those guys if they happen to be watching. And, you know, if you guys want to see Jesse in performance or whatever, be sure to check him out with Ruben Ramos. But back to what we were talking about. So we were in the middle of doing the La Cuarenta Cinco horns. So as I was saying, trumpet that way and saxes and trombones, low brass, and reeds down at the bottom. The next one that we have is one that... this one's going out to Brian Vasquez. He had a question about a particular sound. And so this one's not exactly that particular sound, but perhaps that sound layered with other stuff. And it's called Laredo Brass, not because there's any sounds from Laredo, you know, specifically, but because of a specific keyboard player, perhaps, that might have been from that area. So yes, this is that sound. Yeah, so if that's what you're talking about, yes, that's that sound. Shout out going out to Michael who's joining us. So that Sereno sort of sound too. So yeah, that's a very versatile sound. There is a modification on this sound, and we'll get to that one a little bit later. Let's see here. There's Octo Brass. This is kind of like, it's a general purpose brass. I've used it on a lot of stuff, let's see. Here you know, so it's that sort of thing. Saxy brass is kind of, you know what I mean? You can use it kind of like with chords for leads, and you know, I'm not gonna play too much because we have demos for that, but I am trying to play through most of the sounds to kind of, hey, let's see, solo bone. I mean, it's important, but trombone. Let's see. This is more of a synth sort of brass. There's a velocity fall brass, which on its own sounds pretty good. If you want to do stabs. But so it does at high velocities. You can do brass falls, so you have to kind of hit it kind of hard. Hey, Jess, what are some of your favorite brass sounds from the library, or do you not have any off the top of your head?
Let me look through here. It's been.
I know sometimes all the sounds kind of start blurring together when you're trying to work on coding and all this other stuff. So I'll let
let me see.
I'll let Jesus kind of run through them a little bit. But the last one on here is the Washington Brass. So that's more like what Brian was talking about, I think. Yes, Michael. Okay, so we're not trying to call these by what they were, but what we're calling them, right? Hopefully we'll rebrand it. You know what I mean? Instead of people saying, "Oh, that's the blah, blah, blah brass," they're gonna say like, "Oh, that's the music creator brass. That's Laredo Brass. That's Washington Brass." The reason this one's called Washington Brass is because there's a keyboard player natively from Washington that might have used this sound. Yeah, those are.
Are you hearing that, or is it just me?
Am I hearing what?
No,
Yeah, I can hear your keyboard a little bit.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's cool.
So the one that I really like is the Octa Brass. I don't know why, just like it fills in that one and the Laredo one.
Yeah, and you know what, the Octa Brass, let me go back to Octa Brass for a second, because Octa Brass is good for, let's see, where are we at, brass, Octa Brass, it's good for like the single line stuff, like we were doing that, like, right, but you can also use it to play like chord stuff, or more than one note. Like, this isn't actually the sound that you would use this for, but it's a good, what's the word I'm looking for, it's a good alternative. Because like, you have that lower octave, but then if you play the super higher octave, it kind of blends well once you add real sax and all that stuff. Which leads me to the next section, which would be the woodwinds. Let's see here. Woodwinds. So we have, this one's called 90s sax. Because it was used a lot in the 90s. It's not necessarily an acoustic saxophone, but whatever. Barry saxes for your big band orchestra arrangements. This one's a breathy alto. Kind of has a breathy sort of... this one's called Flute, because it's kind of like a cross between a pan flute and a calliope. Good for cumbias, good for even some ranchera stuff. There's another calliope sound that we'll get to that's pretty cool, and I'll show you that one later. But this one, to me, I don't know, Jess, I don't know about you, but I think this is kind of one of the big gems.
I know which one you're talking about.
This is one of the big gems of the library. To me, this alto sax is called hard Alto. It's very imperfect, not because of the playing, but just because certain notes have a little vibrato, some of them kind of have a little growl, some of them, and it's velocity sensitive. So when you hit hard, some notes will bend and some notes will kind of like glissando into the note, but none of it's like, it's all basically random. But because it sounds like that, when you layer it with all the other keyboard stuff, and I think you guys heard the demos, but if not, we'll be listening to some of the demos here in a little bit. The sax sounds super real. Not on its own. On its own, you're going to be like, Rolando's out of his mind. But in the context of a mix, it sounds so good. It really does. So you see right there, at a medium velocity, it doesn't do anything. And then, so instead of like the way you used to have to do that sort of stuff is play with the pitch bend, like, and that doesn't sound as realistic as already having it within the sample. And like I said, some of them have vibrato, and the notes kind of trail off. So yeah, some of them don't. So that kind of gives it its own kind of like unique sort of sound. Never satisfied oboe. So when we were in the process of kind of trying to collect some of these sounds, I told Jizzy, I was like, hey man, you wouldn't happen to have an oboe sound? He's like, well yeah, but why?
Why do you want an oboe sound?
Yeah. Oh, why do you want an oboe sound? You know, like it's not like it's like a snake charmer sort of sound, right? But right away, once I got it, I was like, listen, man. So for those of you who are into that whole Masota sort of thing, that's the sound. Well, at least a close representation of that. Let's see, pan flute. Those are good for cumbias. This one's steam organ. This is the other calliope sound. What is it? Oh, I'm sorry. So there's that. Let's see. This one's called Symphonic Harmonica. Again, we were getting together and trying to get this in harmonica. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, and let's layer it with strings. So I think this one came out pretty good too.
I really like the way that one came out.
Yeah.
I was surprised when I heard it in the demos. Yeah. I was like, wow, it just fits right there.
It does, man.
And it sounds great.
Yeah. Good for them. It sounds good with strings, man. Tenor sax. Let's see here. This one I like. This one's called Valley Sax. And, okay, so from Cynthia says, how many sounds are there? Well, there's technically 120 patches, but some of those patches are layered sounds. So, and not only that, but like if you take into account like the drum stuff, there's so many different voices happening in the drum stuff that I couldn't tell you. I think last time I checked, we were above 4,400 samples. That's a lot of samples, guys. I mean,
so the library is what, like over 3 gigs?
3.5 gigs, and that's not taking into account Sordenado, which is not that big of a program. So for those of you who are trying to figure out about how much space you'll need on the computer, all that information's on the owner's manual. But let's just say you should probably have about 3.5 gigs set aside, not in RAM, but just on your hard drive. This is actually running quite lean. I don't know if you can see because my keyboard's in the way, but yeah, no, my keyboard's in the way. You can't see it, but my performance meter is not even registering that I'm using hardly any RAM. So it's a very lean product and the samples themselves, although they're big, don't really hit the CPU too hard. So for those of you who are using less than adequate computers, there's definitely a minimum system requirement, which I don't necessarily recommend, but I mean, you could run this, safely on, I would say, like about 4 gigs of RAM and like some kind of, dual core processor. So, okay. So Michael, how many sounds? We covered that. How much and where can I buy it? Okay. So pricing is on the website. And the reason I'm going to leave it at that is because there's an introductory price right now for people who are going to watch it later on. That price might not be the same as what it is right now. So if you guys want to know what it costs, go to www.tejanokeyboard.com. You can find it in the store, or you can just click. There's a big banner at the top that says Tejano Keyboard Music Creator Library, and you can click on that and go from there. It's a simple install. It'll install Forzando if you don't have it already. Like I said, once again, we are not affiliated with Forzando. Forzando is their own thing. Plug is the company who owns Forzando and Aria, and they own all the trademarks to that. We're not trying to, claim any ownership of that, but our library was specifically made to run on that system. So hopefully that answers some of those questions. Thank you, Brian. Brian says the demos on the page are awesome. Thank you. We're actually going to play some of those demos live so you can kind of see what a project looks like. And everything that you heard in the demos, if we don't get to all the demos here tonight, they're going to be on the SoundCloud page. You can also find it when you go to the store page on Tejano Keyboard. You can hear the demos on there too. Every single thing that you heard was from this library. None of it, there was no live instruments. It was all MIDI sequences using these sounds, these samples. So yes, Brian, if you like the way that these instruments sound, everything you heard could be yours. Go find out at the website. Oh yes, Valley Saxes. So this is kind of like a dark alto, bright tenor sort of sound, but I like it for. My bad. But these are also pressure sensitive. So you can do, I think one of the demos was even like that. But it's also good because that sort of darker alto sound was good for like some of the older Moss stuff too. So you'll hear it in some of the demos and stuff. So moving on. Okay, that brings us to another one of the jewels of the library. And I'm going to actually do it this way where you can see. Section. What was that?
This is my favorite section.
Yes, the accordions.
Yeah.
So, Jesse and I had actually even just today about a conversation about why keyboard accordion sounds fake, as opposed to the real acoustic instrument. And there's many factors, and I'm not saying by any means that these sound exactly like real accordions, but if you get somebody who kind of knows and understands the concept of what happens physically when an accordion is being played and how the notes are being played, then you can get it to be pretty accurate. Okay, so we have, let's see, 8 different tunings of accordion, because those are all different sounds. So this first one right here is called Sordenado. So the Sordenado is a tuning that was made popular by like Valerio Longoria and Los Gilbertos and stuff like that, where I've actually done some research and talked to a few accordion tuners to make sure that this was as accurate as it could be. So the sound that makes that Desordenado sort of sound is they take a typical German accordion, of the most popular brand. And they swap reeds around, so the first half of the accordion is octaved, and then the bottom half is octaved as well, but it's octaved an octave lower. So like they basically change the high reeds and the low reeds on one side to the other, because there's really two sets of reeds all the way through. And I know this is getting kind of like technical and getting really into like the mechanics of the accordion and all that sort of stuff. But if you've ever heard that, you know, that, or whatever. So the octaves break up somewhere in the middle of the keyboard, but it's cool because when you're playing thirds, sometimes it starts sounding like you're playing sixes and vice versa, you know. So that's pretty cool. That gives you kind of that 2G's sort of sound. Let's see here. German dry. This is kind of like my personal go-to sound when I'm, when I'm picking out an accordion sound. And I actually play diatonic accordion. So like this is my favorite tuning because I think it pairs well with keyboards because it's not very wet, obviously dry. And when I mean wet and dry, I don't mean in humidity. I'm talking about as far as the amount of wave between the two notes that are oscillating. So this is just like a, and the notes naturally decay. The one thing about all the German ones, including the Sordenado and the German dry and the German jazz, which we'll get to in a second, those are all velocity sensitive. And with those old German accordions, sometimes Brian said, I purchased it about 20 minutes ago. Okay, I'll email you once this is all done. And thank you to everybody who's purchasing. So where was I? We were talking about, they're velocity sensitive, right? So the older German accordions, when they're really broken in, the felt on the back of the wood board actually gets worn out. And what happens when you hit the keys really hard, the key actually clicks against the wood. So with these German sounds, if you play just regularly, the harder you hit it, the more click you get. So you have to kind of like hit it with some velocity to get that nice sort of.
So there's another question from James Varela. It says, do you need a MacBook computer for this software?
Actually, no. It's both Windows and Mac compatible. And again, I know we kind of discussed this before, but it's available in a standalone version where you don't need recording software to use it. You can just open up the Forzando program and the library's in there. But for those of us who like to actually sequence stuff, actually, I think you can do a little bit of sequencing on Forzando. I haven't really dove into it that much. But because I use it more as a plugin within Studio One. But like we mentioned before, it's AU, AAX, VST, and VST3. So it's on all those formats. So basically, so long as your audio recording software, your DAW, your digital audio workstation, takes plugins, you'll be able to run this software within it if you're not using it standalone. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, Windows is good, Mac is good. Who knows? Maybe someday it'll be good on Linux, but I don't know how many people are actually using Linux, so we won't go there. Now, no, I'm just kidding. So
only when I chew gum, though.
Only when I chew gum. The next one's German jazz, but I'm going to come back to that in a second because I got something set up for you guys, okay? Italian ballon. This is a medium octave single note and a lower octave single note. that sort of sound. Okay. We also have the clarinet, which is just a single reed by itself. We have the master. So for that really big norteño sort of sound. We also have violin, which is, you know, it's good for all sorts of stuff. Anything from a, you know what I mean, or a, so there's all those sort of sounds with the violin. The violin's good too. But these are all the Italian ones, so you can kind of put your mind around it for those accordionists that are playing a certain Italian style accordion or brand of accordion, or brands, because they all kind of sound the same. All the Italian stuff will sound good for, you know, replicating that. So the last one of the accordions before I dive into the German jazz one. This one's called Valenato, which is good for, you know, Cumbia. Okay. But there's a certain accordionist who plays a chromatic, let's see here, a chromatic 5-row accordion that that you could still get like a... that sort of sound, or even a, let's see, so you can have that sort of, it's a very wet tuning. It's basically 3 reeds, not quite in unison. They're all kind of detuned from each other. Quite, that's the wettest sound out of all the accordions, is that Valenato one. You know. Okay. After that, we're gonna get to the rhythm section stuff, but let's take a little detour. So I have right here. Let me open this up. This is that German jazz. So the German jazz accordion is modeled off of. Well, you'll be able to hear. I already said one of the names is Jordan, right? So it's dry on the high end of things, right? But then the bottom part is octave, so you can get that sort of you know, jazz sound, or what's that? But what I wanted to show you is that even though these sounds are dry, you know, some of them have a little reverb and stuff like that, when you use them in context of a DAW like Studio One, I set up this plugin that does effects here. This one's called Ampire, which is their guitar amp simulator. But I turned off the amp and the cabinet, and the reason that I'm using it is because it has a plethora of stomp box pedals. So I have the phase 90 going on right here. So like let's see. So it sounds pretty sweet, I think, with the phaser.
I never thought about doing that. I messed with that song, that sample, but I'd never done that. That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, but you can use it for yeah. So you can Anyways, so there's that.
So James Barello wrote again, and he says, "Thanks, Mr. Revere, for your knowledge and time."
Thanks, man. Well, it's not a one person show here. I want to give props to Jesse here too for helping me, kind of encouraging me along the process and helping me when when we needed to get stuff done. You know what I mean? Nobody can do it on their own, and that's the thing. And we're here doing this because we know that together, as a Tejano music community, we can accomplish great things when we help each other out, right? Like, yes, you know what I mean? You're helping me monetarily for the time and effort that, you're helping us monetarily for, the time and effort that, that we put into this. But on the bigger scale of things, the price that we put this at is way below what if you're talking about Keyscape and, some of these other really big plugins that specifically do piano stuff or specifically do synth stuff, they're 2-3 times as much as what we're charging, and in reality with this, there's so much that you can do with it, and I'm actually showing you what other things you can do outside of the software itself, like this phaser sort of thing. But your software will probably have something, or who knows, maybe you're using Studio One if you have Empire. Well, there you go. You can get all sorts of Jordan sounds there. So let's move on. Let's go to. I'll leave this German jazz one aside for a sec. I have another thing set up here for you guys. Let's get into the rhythm section stuff, and we're actually going to work backwards here for a second, just because I know that a lot of the time is going to be kind of taken up here by talking about like the drums and stuff. So we'll get to that in a second. Here's the Bajo, and Bajo comes in two different patches, one for chords and one for single notes. But I'll show you the chords one because the single note's kind of self-explanatory. The single note stuff, it's like you're playing a keyboard and all the notes are sounds from Bajo, right? But with all the chorded instrument stuff, they're broken up into sections, so when you're playing them, you're actually getting samples of chords. So the first octave, and it's really the second octave of a 61 key. We'll just say that first octave is majors, second octave is minors, third octave is dominant, and then at the very fringes of the keyboard are single notes, and then so if we play it softly right there. And so these are velocity sensitive, where you have different voicings too. When you hit it softly, it's like the fifthless voicing on the Bajo, which is 1, 3, and the octave, and then that's like your triad. And then at the highest velocity, it's just like a power chord, like with no third, which is really good for like, that rockteño sort of vibe, Same thing with the minors. There's two different flavors. There's like a thirdless voicing. There, right there. So that will give you the without the third, right? And then when you hit it harder, it'll give you the minor seventh. So an example of this would be, something like that. So when you're doing like more Tejano style, sorry about that. And if you want to do fills, like, so you can do that. So these notes right here, that's what the single single note bajo thing will be, but if you want to do more intricate stuff, it'll all be together instead of being spread out like that. Let's see here. We have guitars, and guitars are also going to be in acoustic, and it'll be acoustic chords and acoustic single notes. We will have Les Paul chords and single notes, Strat chords and single notes, and then we have one that's called upstroke, which is great for cumbias, and that one's only 2 octaves. It's major triads and minor triads. There's no dominants, no diminishes, no anything like that. It's just that sort of thing, right? Or so those are just upstrokes on a Strat. So let's dive in. I won't spend too much time on here. So let me show you the Strat one, because the Strat chords are pretty cool. So the single note Strat stuff, if you want to do single lines or like fills and stuff in between, you have to load up 2 different sounds. Let's see here. So you have majors. You have different velocities. So at the lowest velocity, you have just a regular triad. Medium velocity would be major 7th, and then major 6th 9. So same thing, you can go. Okay. So velocity sensitive on the majors, minors are not, and then dominants are not. Okay, and then in the 4th octave we have diminishes. Okay, and then so there's 3 layered 4 times, so that's 12, and that's how you get all 12 of the diminished chords. So yeah, I won't get into too much of the theory, but just know that there's all the diminished chords right here and all the augmenteds. Okay, and so yeah, that's all you need to know. If you can read the owner's manual, and or use your ears, man. If it sounds good, if that sounds good right there, then just use that. You know what I mean? If it sounds good
earlier, like you said earlier, if you wanted to add, like say chorus to it or some effects, you can just use some kind of amp simulation or
correct
with pedals, and you can make it sound any way you want it to sound because they're recorded dry.
Right. And then even within Forzando, you can use some of the built-in effects. So for example, I know I wasn't going to spend that much time on guitars, but let's do like say let's do guitar, and we'll do single note strats. Okay. Something like that, right? You go to the effects, you go to detune, which is their chorus, and you crank that bad boy up. Bring the detune down a little bit. So you can get some pretty believable stuff. So something like that, if you wanted to run it through an amp sim or your favorite kind of chorus, you can also do that. I have one more guitar thing that I kind of wanted to show you here before we kind of dive. Oh, actually, we still got to get to basses. But this right here is the single note Les Paul stuff. Okay. But the reason I brought this up is because this particular single note sample was done on the lead switch, and I have an amp sim set up here. So right here, this sounds kind of, whatever. It sounds good, but on its own. But when you run it through an amp simulator that's doing like some sort of like Marshall sort of thing, So you have we don't have distorted guitar samples per se, but because we process the instruments as dry as possible, you can actually tailor it to sound however you want. So let's get to some more exciting stuff. Let's talk about the basses you did there, Jess. Let's go back up here. So talk a little bit about the bass stuff while I pull it up, if you don't mind.
So, do I want to say what? Well, it's a popular brand. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
so it's these are modeled on of a 6-string bass, and different how do I say positions and
positions.
techniques. Like, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, and then a couple other ones, but the top 6 are the ones that came from the bass that I have, and so they're named like BB6, BM6, BN6, and what that means is where the pickup is, bridge position, or
where you plucked.
neck position, or where you pluck.
Mm-hmm.
You're plucking up by the neck, or if you're plucking up by the bridge. And so BB6 is bridge pickup, plucked at the bridge. And what's BM6?
It's a mix. It's playing over the bridge, but with mixed pickups, I believe.
Oh, so both pickups.
Yeah, both pickups. But if I were to use B, then it would still be like bridge.
Right.
So M is mixed. So that's how you can. And in the owner's manual, we'll talk more about this. But the one thing that I really wanted to talk about too is that a lot of people don't understand the importance of bass being a foundation to the mix of any song, right? Drums and bass are like essential. So where you play on the bass and how you play the bass and what pickup configuration you have,
Or styles, yeah.
your styles will really dictate how the bass sounds. And then you can tell in some of those demos, like it'll sound like night and day, like different bass players, but it's really the same samples, but in different positions, different whatever. So like I think we're okay with like talking about some like other like famous brand names. Like, so for example, like to get that Jaco Pastorius sort of jazz sort of sound, Jaco always played over the bridge pickup. So with the and usually with the tone turned all the way down, but these were all sampled like wide open. So if you want to get that sort of Jaco sort of sound, you could always just kind of roll off some of the high end and do stuff like that to achieve that sort of sound if that's what you're going for. So I like how that sounds. And then you can even run it through an amp sim or compression, EQ, and that sort of stuff. So you can really get these sounds to be tailored however you want. Like we kind of went overkill on bass. Like, so not only do we have 6 different samples from Jesse, and they're not just like one samples. These are samples across the entire instrument, right? So you've got like all the open strings and and they're all kind of all over the the spectrum, but they only go up to the range of like what's usually acceptable like for bass playing, right? This keyboard goes only down to C, but it goes down to the low B, which is the wide open string on a 6-string, right? It's the low B, right? Yes? No? Maybe?
Yep.
Okay. And so let's talk about a couple of the other bass sounds. So for example, all of Jesse's stuff is really super good, so you guys have to check it out. There's one that's called Mobster Bass, and we had an interview with somebody who happens to play in a band, blah blah blah, and he said that the secret is regular electric bass with clav, and so that's what we have here. So you can have that sort of sound there. And then the last one is a passive 6-string bass, but the nice thing about the passive one, well, I don't know if it's nice, but the useful thing about it is that you can get multiple bass sounds in one unit. So like the 6-string stuff that Jesse did, there's different velocities, but it's all kind of like within one instrument. So at low velocities, here, let's see. There we go. There we go. Very soft. It'll get that nice round tone because those sounds are more towards the neck. Okay, and then medium velocity will be more bridge pickup, so that they sound a little bit brighter. And then if you want to go full on, it's slap bass, so you can do some plucks and stuff when you hit the strings harder. So if you ever need slap bass for something, we got you covered. Let's see here. How are we doing on time? Okay, yeah. And then, so let's just dive right into the drum stuff. I've got something set up over here. With the drum stuff, we have all sorts of stuff. Let's see here. Drums. Okay, so these are literally all the different grooves and different BPMs that we have. We have bolero, chotis, a whole bunch of cumbias, huapango, merengue, rancheras in the variety of conjunto norteño and tejano. We have tribal, and we have waltz slash redova, because they're kind of like the same thing. It's just one's instrumental, and the rest of the other stuff that makes redova is all happens in the arrangement, but not necessarily in the drum pattern. So let's dive in. So some of these grooves, like let's just dive right into Cumbia 73. So this is like a slow kind of romantic, like pseudo norteño light sort of cumbia groove, but also can be used for like, you know, that whole Houston groove. So we have the individual instruments up here, starting with middle C, kick, snare, hi-hats. The hi-hats are also zoned, so you can actually cut off the note when you're doing, you can choke the note with the foot. Okay. You've got toms, you got all sorts of different cymbals, and then so you have down here, you have grooves with. So the nice thing about this is that when you play the grooves, when you hold it down, it'll loop forever. Every downbeat that you hit, though, will have a cymbal associated with it. Okay, and then once you get to a certain point, you'll start running into licks. So the licks don't stop. They play all the way through like a single shot. So when you're playing a groove, and if you want to do. So that way you can have time to click into that. So there's a couple of them that are offbeat ones, so you can come in on the and before the downbeat. Yeah, so there's a bunch of cool stuff here. Rolls. Anyways, so
now, it shows on Sordenado, it shows you the notes that are available that you can trigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the screen.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out too. Yeah, Sordenado will show you where the notes are, but if you're kind of curious as to what's what, the owner's manual will have all of that in there as well. So some of them are like that, where one button will trigger both a drum and conga groove. But other ones, in case you want to kind of mix and match your grooves, like this general purpose, like Cumbia 88, the white keys are all drum grooves. And then the black keys are different conga grooves, or cowbells and... So you can mix and match. There's no fills on this, but you have all sorts of different drums, so you can create your own fills, like toms. You even have electro toms. see. You have congas, cowbell, all sorts of whistles and vibra slaps, timbales, and the timbales are also pressure sensitive. Anyways, if you want the block, you have that. So I'm hitting two buttons at the same time to accomplish that, right? But then I could change the conga groove, or even do like a, and then I could switch if I want to keep that, and then switch the drums. There's even a songo beat, which is cool. I like that. Anyways, so there's a lot of really cool stuff. If let's dive into some of the other. There's a lot of really good. Like, man, I swear we could just do a whole video on the drum stuff, man. We really could.
Yeah. Drums cool.
Yeah. So let's do like this conjunto one. This conjunto is like a really fast sort of a. So if you let them play out long enough, there's a lot of stuff happening before the loop starts over. Okay. And there's all sorts of... So those sound pretty legit. Let's see here. Let's go back to drums, rhythm section, drums. Let's do the norteño 90. This is kind of like the norteño light sort of thing. There's really only a few grooves here. We have with kind of like a mild sort of snare. Then we have one with like a harder snare, with more velocity to it. We have that sort of and that one, the ride does not repeat anymore.
I was wondering, I said, whoa.
Yeah,
I thought I heard it.
Yeah, no. I took your suggestion. I fixed it. So there's kind of like a swing norteño sort of thing going on right there. Anyways,
that one. I was doing some sequencing with the VST like before this, and during testing and stuff, and I think I used that lick. I was just kind of messing around.
Yeah, that's a good lick, man. All of those licks are popular licks that some popular drummers within that genre use. So, yeah. Let's see here. Let's do. How are we on time, man? Okay, so let's go. Let's hit some of the Tejano stuff, because that's what we're here for, right? Is the Tejano stuff. So we have a slower one, and this one's same thing. Only a couple grooves, because they're pretty straight. One's basically without a ride, and one's with a ride. And then there's a whole plethora of different licks that are, of this style. So. So you can hear the ride in that one a little bit, but yeah, let's see here. So those are all Yeah, those are all really cool. Yeah. So let's move on to Ranchera 1. Let's see. Ranchera 105, which is, this is more of like a Brownsville sort of vibe. So, you know, and it has some of the real popular, let's see here. That's with the ride. If you want to do some stuff like that in the middle of a ranchera, or so there's that lick, right?
I remember suggesting that, and you're like,
it's already there, man. You can't have a drum library for Tejano music and not have that lick on there, right? That's the, yeah. So that's kind of a variation on that.
There's different tones too for the drums.
Yeah,
I know,
each drum set is tailored to that style of music too. And you, like I said, you still have all the single shots over here. So if you want to do your own fill, like, you know, you can do that sort of thing. Although I think that lick's even in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. So yeah, there's all sorts of really cool licks, man. Like, the licks themselves are super cool. Okay, so let me go to my favorite one. I know the Ranchera, the Tejano Ranchera 102. Okay, so this one has, I remember on Facebook a while ago, I asked my drum buddies, like, hey man, what are some of your favorite Tejano licks of, you know, whatever, and people were giving me suggestions. So yeah, I ended up using that. What's that sound?
This?
I don't know. You hear it?
Is it my chair squeaking?
No, it's something that's going. It doesn't matter. We'll play over it. So this is a real popular style of drumming. And there's different variations of it. There's one with the rides. But it's all chock full of good licks too. That same lick from before. That's and of course, not all those licks are from the same drummer. Those are all, but within that style, yeah, there's some cohesiveness there to that whole thing. Let's see. I don't want to skimp anything out, but let's see. Let's do a little bit of the wapango, just a little bit so you can hear. So there's that one with the straight kick, bum 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 bum, and then you have with a cowbell. And then here at the F sharp, you have the congas too, if you're kind of doing like a merequetengue sort of thing. There's even kind of like a rock sort of. No, I'm just kidding. You guys know what song that's from. Anyway, and then we have some other, like I said, some other fringe stuff. There's all sorts of cumbia, merengue, and by merengue I mean a particular song that has. Oh no, that's not it. Where am I? I almost hit. Let's see. Boom.
Merengue 135.
Merengue 135, which is right next to Wapango. That's why it has. So you know what that merengue is, what that's about. Let's see, drums. Let's just hit on tribal real quick. You know what? No, I lied. I gotta hit some of these. I'm not like I like cumbias, but ranchera is kind of like my thing, right? That's what I like to do. But man, some of these cumbia ones are pretty good, man. Some of these that sort of thing. I think Cumbia 85 was really good too. You know what? They're all really good, but this Cumbia 85, I liked it because it has a real punchy bass drum. And that groove is just like... and there's some, you know... Yeah.
I like that snare.
Yeah, the snare's really good. So anyways, that's enough of the drum stuff. Let's listen to some demos real quick. And we probably won't listen to a lot of them because we ran out of time. And also, they're all online. So I'm going to do this conjunto one because Jesse and I were talking about something. And I told him that I was going to try it out. And guess what, Jess? It sounds better.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? We were talking about the directions of the bellows.
Yeah. You did it?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Here, okay, guys.
I didn't think you were serious.
No, I did it. Here, listen. Here we go. Little chotis here. Did you hear that? What I was talking about?
Yeah, but I can't believe you did that today. That part, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So,
like, how did you do that?
Yeah. So if you guys want to know how I did that, it'll be for another time. Okay, let's see here. Let's do the old school one. That one's kind of cool. We have to hit a couple cumbias too because, you know, I'm biased towards rancheras. Like I said, I like rancheras, but I like cumbias too. It's just, yeah, So this is kind of like all sorts of different stuff, and you can see there like the different basses. Well, it's one bass, I think. Which one is it? This one. Oh, this is the neck one. So this is kind of like playing up on the.
You get more of a boomier kind of tone.
Boomier old school sort of sound. Guitars Les Paul. The single notes. Let's see. We have some accordion, some pads, some strings. We got some old school synths. We got some other accordion stuff happening, and we have that brass, that La Cuarenta Cinco horn section that we were talking about. So here, let's listen to this one. You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna stop that for a second. Hold on. I'm going to do this real quick just because we were talking about it. Let's go to Empire. Let's turn off the amp sim. Let's turn off the cabinet sim. And let's get...
So you have the session open?
Yeah, I have the session open.
Session? Wow.
Yeah. So here's the phase 90. And let me bring that accordion down because that's really loud. Let's see what that does. Just because I want to. Okay, ready? Here we go.
That's cool stuff, man.
Yeah, you know what? I had it too quiet. Let's listen to that again with a little bit more volume on the accordion. Let's see. Where's the amp sim right here? Where are we? Right here. Let's bring it up just through there. It might be a little loud, but whatever. Here we go. You know, this is one.
That last one sounded familiar. I think I heard that one once.
I think you might have. So that was one of the things that I forgot to talk. This is a good drum kit too, because although this is the old school kit, there's so many drummers that have different grooves. Like, so you have the regular, like, that sort of thing happening, but then you also have the tambourine on top of that if you want it. Okay, and then you have the open hi-hat thing, like the Steve Jordan sort of thing, with a shaker. So and talking about old school vibe, right? Like the drums sound really like vintage.
Yeah, the tone of them.
Yeah. If you listen to these long through the whole loop, you can hear that there's a lot of stuff, a lot of character to them. And then this was this is the group.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah, that drive.
That little ghost note thing that.
Yeah, it's got like a little.
The orquesta sort of like swing to it. Orquesta thing. So there's two variations of that. And then there's also one with the ride. And there's all sorts of licks. So yes, there's all that going on. Here, let's see.
That's pretty true to the style.
Yeah, man. I think they are too. So let's try this Cumbia 88. That one has some really cool stuff in there. We'll probably do the Cumbias also. We'll probably touch on a couple, like maybe one Norteño light, and then like a couple Tejano things. And okay. Anyways, here we go. Those were fun. So let's see. Let's do some more cumbias. Let's do this one's called Cumbias. This one's got all sorts of different cumbias and different tempo changes, all sorts of different stuff. And you can see the session's massive. That's got I don't know. It's got maybe I'll tell you here in a second. And mix wise, it's got it looks like we've got almost 38 instances of Forzano running to try and get all these sounds to, happen.
How is that working with your processor?
Oh, good. The processor's really, really low still. I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen because my keyboard's in the way.
Yeah, the keyboard's in the...
Yeah, but it's still running really low. And this isn't a great computer, guys. I mean, 8 gigs of RAM and a couple core processors. It's, whatever.
The Core Duo?
I don't remember. Yeah, It doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. I'll let you guys know. But like I said, minimum system requirements are already written down in the owner's manual. So here we go. We have a question. Frank Chavarria says, where can we purchase this? For those of you who are showing up late, TejanoKeyboard.com. Just go there and it's already available for purchase. Once we're done with the show, I'll try to fulfill all the orders and send out all the installers. There's a prompt there that tells you whether you need it for Mac or for Windows, and then we'll mail you the accordion installer, as well as not the serial number. What's it called? Serial number. It's called something else. It's called the verification code or something like that. Whatever it's, some programmers did it for us, so I don't remember exactly what the terminology is, but basically to say that this copy belongs to you. Okay.
So it'll be in the store section of the website.
Absolutely. And also if you go right to the website, there's a big banner across the top anyway. So that says, click here to purchase. So yeah, but it is on the store section. When you go to the store section, you'll be able to hear all of these demos in full. Let's just do one more, man. And this is kind of like the one that I really like. This is kind of like my favorite one. I know these are like my children. You're not supposed to have a favorite, right? But there's always a favorite.
So before you do that, there's another comment that says, "What's up?" From J Music. It says, "What's up? Congratulations to this amazing project."
Thank you so much. I believe that's a Jesse Flores, but not the Jesse Flores from. They're both from the Valley, but not the Jesse Flores that plays with or used to play with Cadillacs. That's another Jesse Flores, and I believe I'm related to him somehow too. So. Shout out going out to J Flow. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we're gonna play this last one, and then after that we'll answer any other questions, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. Jesse here, he and I will. Okay, so here we go. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but the only way to listen to that demo is with the volume all the way up. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a lot of work, and just to see this all come together, man, it's just, I'm really really happy, and I want to thank Jesse for all his hard work and for making this all come together. Um, Also, I want to remind you guys, for those of you who are not listening, and you guys can see this right here, everything that you heard is all sequenced. None of it is a real instrument performance. There are samples of real instruments, but as you can hear, and like on this particular sound or this song, I wanted to use the passive six. Reason being is because the songs change bass sounds, but instead of using a bunch of different bass sounds, I used that one patch and played lightly when I wanted a slightly darker a sound for like the Ram sort of, or excuse me, whatever, that one song, and and then for other stuff that's more, I don't know. You can hear the difference in the different bass playing, but yeah, man. I don't know. What do you think, Jess?
Sounds great, man. I was surprised the first time I heard that one. I was like, that brass. I was like, that brass alone is like,
Yep.
It sets it off, man. Like,
yeah, and there's a bunch of different brasses. You know what I mean? There's the Laredo Brass is in there. There's a brass section layers. The Octo Brass is in there. There's all sorts of
brass that's in that. There's like a synth brass or something in there.
You could just say the names. We're already at the end of it. It doesn't matter what. Oh yeah. At the last song.
Yeah.
So the last song right here. Let's see. We have.
What is that?
Saw. That's just a regular saw synth.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And the DLG stuff was really good. I'm using the acronym, or the, what's it called, the abbreviation. People know what I'm talking about. But even if I were to just take out the, let's take out the drums, take out the bass, let's take out the guitar. We'll just leave in the keys. We'll take out the bajo, the keys, and the accordion. Yeah. And then when you put it all together, that's just kind of like the icing on the cake. So yeah, man.
Awesome.
So I want to thank you guys who have purchased this while we're on the air doing this. For those of you who are going to watch it later and you guys purchase it, thank you so much for doing that. We're not doing this to make ourselves rich. We're doing this because we felt that the industry needed it. There's a lot of people out there that don't know where to start. How many times have I heard people say, "Hey, what's a good keyboard to buy?" And you can go and buy a keyboard, and like, it's either not going to have the right sounds, and that'll discourage you, or it'll have the right sounds for a little while, and then it's outdated. And you can spend hundreds of dollars on a hardware synth. Hundreds of dollars on a hardware synth, or you can buy something like this that we hope that maybe we'll even expand on this library as we start getting different instruments and whatever. But I mean, just to start off with, I mean, you guys heard these demos. I think they sound pretty legit. Some of the feedback that we've gotten from people listening to them say that they sound pretty legit, and I can only imagine what some big producers or whatever, people who dedicate their lives to this, what they could do with this library, and not even that, people who are just starting, like people who don't know exactly what sounds to use. The owner's manual will tell you, hey, these pianos are more for this style and these strings are more for that. And if you're looking for this kind of brass, this is the kind of brass that you're looking for. And, so,
and you don't need a whole arsenal of keyboards.
Yeah, you buy a keyboard and it has 4,000 patches and you use 3 of them. And even so, those aren't really true to the style of music that we're trying to make. You know what I mean? And not to downplay this library, right, and say that it's specifically just for Tejano music, but those pianos on there, man, you could use those in anything: pop music, country music, R&B, like 90s R&B, like all those piano sounds are really good, man, I think, and even the synth sounds, the acoustic brass stuff, I don't know, man. Even like on the fringes of Tejano music, like I said, there's some norteño stuff included. The accordion stuff sounds really super good. I think all the different tunings, Valenato, the master, clarinet, baldon. I mean, yeah, man. I don't know.
I was listening in on the way home because I was taking care of some stuff and I was listening in and when I heard you playing that old school EP and then you added the chorus on it.
Oh yeah.
I was in the car and I was like, whoa, it just widened up. Like,
yep.
It sounded pretty good.
And that's the other thing too, is that like in the owner's manual, it'll give you suggestions like, hey, try putting some chorus on this, or try to, because these sounds are moldable, right? And not only that, but these sounds can be layered with other things. Like if you look right here on measure 62, like look at, there's that bright EP, there's Silky Strings, there's a Saxy Brass, there's a saw synth, but you can see I just copied and pasted it over. It looks like two instances of Saxy Brass, but it's Saxy Brass and Sax synth with the hard alto. And then, the MKS, there's just a bunch of, and that's the sound, man. The Silky Strings, the MKS, that sort of stuff. So yeah.
I've been using that string section. That's the same one, right? The Rolando strings.
Well, Rolando strings and Silky Strings. They're very similar, but one's a little bit brighter than the other, and one sustains a little bit more. But yeah, man. I mean, they're both really. I mean, all the sounds are really, really good and super usable, I think. And I try to make these demos where we could show off all the sounds, you know what I mean? I'm not sure if I got to use all of them, but that one cumbia session that we opened up had 38 different patches.
Wow.
I mean, that's usually, and you know what I mean? But even like this Ranchera one looks like we've got like almost 30 different patches. Yeah, like 26 patches.
The cool thing, like, and I don't play keyboards, but if I did play live, like opening it up in like a standalone and like MIDIing it to a keyboard, like you can use this stuff live.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's broken down in categories. It's real easy to find because, like sometimes, like I remember back in the day when I would buy a new keyboard, I would have to write down on a piece of paper what patches were the ones that I needed. You know what I mean?
Did you ever tape it to the top of your keyboard?
Yeah, along with my I Love Pizza
brass strings.
Yeah, there was one that was called "Is This Better?" No, but you would write down the numbers and stuff, and the modern day keyboards kind of alleviated that problem by allowing you to search for presets and stuff like that. But having it like this, where you can just go to the TK MCL, and then you can see, oh, I need a piano sound, which one right there, boom, and then you know what I mean. And it makes them easy to audition too. So, well, guys, we've been on the air for quite a bit of time. I'm kind of tired. We spent all day, just getting everything situated for this, you know what I mean, as far as like the installers and stuff. Like it was right up to the minute. So everything's available now. TejanoKeyboard.com. Go check it out. Go to the store. And if you don't want to buy the library and you feel it in your heart that you want to support the channel and the website for the advancement of Tejano keyboarding, whether it's learning tutorials or talking music theory, whatever, there's a donate button on there too if you guys want to donate. Let's just keep this thing going, man. Let's not even just keep this thing going. Let's make it be like a rocket ship and just kind of like shoot it into the stratosphere, man. Like there's so many creative people out there. There's so many ideas, and I don't want sounds or the gear to get in the way of people creating wonderful music, great ideas. I want to see people succeed and use this as a tool that, I hear something wonderful on the radio someday and somebody's like, oh, by the way, I used your library to do that. I mean, that would be the ultimate kind of like, I don't know, icing on the cake, so to speak. But, like I said, we're here to help each other out. I'll be doing most of the customer service myself. I'm not necessarily a customer service person, but I will assist you in any way that I can. I'm usually always tied to my phone or the computer or whatever. So even if you have questions and stuff like that, and we'll come up with different ideas of how we can expand on this library. Maybe we'll start offering some MIDI packs or something like that, where there's different grooves or different things that are already pre-programmed, where you can kind of get them and, you know, put them into your DAW or whatever, and you can kind of, you know, do your own thing or something. But I don't know yet. We'll see how
eventually maybe even add to it, or
add
another pack, or you know.
We'll see how this goes. And again, I want to apologize because I am looking at my software, and I know that we've been buffering all night. We were having the same issue yesterday. Cable company came out and said that we were having some interference on our line, but c'est la vie. So I will upload this later, since I've been recording the entire deal there. And yeah, I want to thank Jesse for coming on the air there towards the end. Or not towards the end. You were there for most of it. You know, you just
I tried.
Yeah, no, man, it's good. You know, thank you for still making it.
And thanks for having me. And I enjoyed it. It was.
Yeah, and we'll have to have Jesse back on again too, just to get his perspective on keyboards and stuff. Because he says I don't play keyboards. The band that I joined when I first met Jesse, he was the keyboard player in that band. So he is a keyboard player, and you played with other bands too in Chicago, and you know you're a keyboard player, man. So
then I heard you play it, and I was like, you can play keyboard.
And I heard you play bass, because that was actually that's a whole nother story, but whatever. So to my brother from another mother, Jesse, thank you so very much. Stick around, Jesse. I'm going to sign off the air. I'm going to close out of all this stuff. Let's see here. All right, guys, we're out. We'll see you later, and thank you so much for joining us. Jesse? Oh, you're not there. Okay, whatever. Well, I forgot to set you up. Yeah, people can still hear you. So.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
I look like crap anyway. I'm just kidding.
All right, guys, take it easy.
Thank you.